V8 Supercar world is shrinking. Zooming in on this circuit in Western Sydney. Eastern Creek hosting its second round this year, but they are two totally different rounds. And this is the biggest one of all. Hello, I'm Bill Woods. Welcome to Pit Lane. This is the first time this circuit hosted the final round of the V8 Supercar Championship, an historic occasion in many ways. Three drivers, of course, in contention. They're all very close in the championship points, and a massive crowd has turned up as well. Let's have a look at what's in store. 3 into 2, 1 go. Skate, Murphy, Ambrose. Today, 2 races away from the title. Today will bring you race 1, 150 kilometres with plenty to gain and everything to lose. Tomorrow, the Carrera Cup serves up the entree before we count down to a fantastic finish, recapping one of the great V8 Supercar seasons, a year of change, profiling the contenders, then the 250-kilometre climax and the most critical round of pit stops this year. A few details now. Round 13, it'll be lucky for someone. 150 kilometres today. 33 starters over 39 laps in the pit window between laps 2 and 27. And the weather, very simply, is going to be hot and the air is quite still too. The track temperature in excess of 40 degrees. We talked about this incredible championship situation, one of the closest we've had for a long time. You don't have to go back too many years to find close deciding rounds. However, this is special. Mark Scape has won here 5 times. Ambrose has won here once, and that's current form. Greg Murphy has never won here. 17th time this is. The championship's been decided in the final round. 14 of the 16 previous times, the driver leading the championship going into that round has gone on to win the title. So it looks pretty good for Marcus Ambrose, but there are so many other factors involved, not the least of which is this extraordinary qualifying system, and for that our chief commentators, Matthew White and Neil Crompton.
Well, Billy, extraordinary is a good word. Interesting experiment is probably another phrase that we could use. It wasn't a top 10 shootout, folks. It was a top 33 shootout. The entire field randomly selected by the crowd, and out they went. It was kind of a novelty, but it was a very, very important session because qualifying was always going to be so important.
Well, it totally changed the rhythm of this race meeting and even impacted the way things were done yesterday with the way people used the 3 tyre sets that were allocated. But we have certainly found a spot in the Guinness Book of Records for the world's longest shootout, Matty.
And at the end of all that, what we did get was a pole position lap from Mark Scape that was quite extraordinary around here. That was really good stuff. I mean, Murph's lap at Bathurst this year was obviously the best, but this was right up there with it.
Well, particularly as it was at a moment when it really counted. Mark needed to stitch together the perfect lap. He needed to work with Robbie to make sure that the car worked. He had a good session yesterday in the first session, but in the afternoon he kind of went away a little bit with the car, made a mistake with the setup, but they got it back perfectly today in ideal conditions, and it was really beautifully done. I was super impressed by the way in which he took turn 1 here. He was so deep into 1, the car was on the rev limit of 7,500 revs. He made the apex, which was impressive, but then on the exit, we saw it in replay earlier in the day, he had just fractions of rubber left before he ran completely out of road, and I thought that was impressive.
It was a classic Ford versus Holden battle. I mean, the whole way, you should have heard the crowd, they were just going off, not simply because their man got on the top, but it was really, oh, I saw a blue chip up there, now I see a red chip up there, and at the end of it all, there's 2 red chips on the front row of the grid, if I could put it that way. Holden Racing Team 1 and 2, and poor old Greg Murphy, he had to sit there and wait. He was about midfield out of it. He had to sit there and wait after one little mistake cost him so dearly.
Well, the car wasn't pretty for the majority of the lap, Matthew, and in fact it's not been a good car all weekend, and this last corner here, turn 12, but he came back onto the straight, he booted it up, the thing cranked sideways with oversteer, and then it also sat on the rev limiter briefly in 3rd gear before he could grab 4th. In a game where 1/10 of a second means everything, he lost a lot of time there.
And he had to stand by and just watch his name literally drop further and further down the list, and when you're fighting for the championship, that's not a good thing to be watching. Let's take a look at how this works. Mark Scape will start from pole position. That is the 4th time he's been on pole here at Eastern Creek, the 31st pole position of his career. Todd Kelly pulled that lap literally out of nowhere to make it an all HRT front row. I mentioned those red and blue chips. Look at that. Marcus Ambrose qualifying in 4th position. He's got help from Craig Lowndes and Max Wilson from the Ford department, but it's a very, very fascinating top 10. Mark Scape collects the Munro Pole Award, $5,000 for the day. That's 3 pole positions for 2003 for Scape, and it really was an extraordinary lap. What it does set up is quite a fascinating start to this race. We'll get some news now from here in Pit Lane with Grant Kenny. Grant?